Welcome to Soulful Conversations with Bithika Anand, exploring the person behind the lawyer. All of you will meet the who's who of the legal world with only one twist that we won't be discussing anything legal with them, digging deeper into their persona and exploring their true selves. I will encourage my guests today to introspect, look within, and speak with their inner voice. I'm also pleased to share that Bar and Bench, a renowned online platform, has happily come on board as media partners for this initiative, and they will be the official telecast partners for Soulful Conversations with Bithika Anand. Today we have with us Dr. Akhil Prasad, board member, group general counsel, and company secretary with Boeing India, a stalwart in his true sense of the corporate legal world. He has been with Boeing for 11 years. He has over 27 years of experience as a general counsel with Indian subsidiaries of globally renowned corporations like Fidelity, the Walt Disney Company, General Motors, Electrolux, and with the Modi Group. Akhil has been nominated and recognized in various prestigious general counsel lists released by Forbes India, Business World, Legal 500, LexisNexis, and the Indian Corporate Counsel Association. Dr. Prasad is also a co founder of General Counsels Association of India. Akhil, it's so nice to have you with us and for this soulful conversation. Of course, today we are not going to talk anything legal, but what you are behind the lawyer. So, can you tell us about your journey of becoming a general counsel? What really inspired you to take this pursuit in your career?
So thank you first of all, Bithika, for having me here. And indeed, I think I must compliment you to bring about the person inside what we are today. Indeed, it's a great initiative that you have taken. Uh, my short answer is that it is all about your destiny. So when I started to study law from my hometown, which is Meerut, I could not have imagined the kind of growth the corporate sector would have. But as I said, destiny, so my focus has always been on education. And after I did my law from Meerut University, Meerut College, I realized that things are changing very rapidly because those were the days of 1991 when the economic liberalization happened,
Yeah.
and my education was during that time only. Uh, and the change was so rapid that the corporate landscape changed. My only focus always was on my education. So initially, I did law from India. Then I realized that due to globalization, it is very necessary that one should be abreast with things that are happening around you on the international side. And I studied law from India, UK, US, did two PhDs, and then everything was the byproduct. So the opportunities that came to me was because of my education, and I never thought I will work for companies like Xerox, then Electrolux, then General Motors, Disney, Fidelity, and now with Boeing. I think when you start to uplift and upskill, the other things get attracted to you. And that is how my profile got shaped up initially as a lawyer in India, then a company secretary in India, then an international lawyer, and now a board member. So I think the transition was seamless. It happened over the period of time.
Yeah, amazing that, from a Meerut University. I also educated myself in Meerut. I was in Sophia Girls School in Meerut in my initial years of education when I was in school. And amazing that from Meerut University to being a board member of the Boeing, like it's a this thing. But yes, education, you focused on the education and it helped you get there, where you wanted to be. So, is there any individuals from within the legal profession or outside who have influenced you in any way, in this profession that you're in?
So yes, in industry there have been many people who I always looked forward to for inspiration, and my inspiration has been people who have really worked hard in life. people who were first generation professionals. I would not say lawyers, but professionals. Because if you are a first generation, there is definitely both an opportunity and as well as a threat. An opportunity because you have to chart out your own career, and a threat that you do not have a godfather.
Right.
There have been several people within the corporate and other personalities who have really inspired me, especially during the dull moments of your life, especially during the tough moments of your life. And that is where you read about these people and how these people have overcome those obstacles. So my life has been full of obstacles, and there are two ways to deal with an obstacle: either to give up.
But can you just give us something about an obstacle, what you call as some one experience?
See, obstacles have been primarily on the perception of what you are.
Okay.
So as you said, the Meerut University, I always believed that it was a fantastic degree.
Right.
But the perception what people carried about me
Right.
was an obstacle.
That's what I meant.
Yes. So that obstacle had to be overcome.
Right.
And it takes number of years. So coming back to people who really inspired me, there is a long list of people. I read a lot of biographies. And why so? And not only biographies of professionals, but biography of film stars, people who have really struggled in life. And then it motivates you and inspires you that you are not the only one.
Correct.
There are many people who have been through this journey. But my primary teachers of my life has been my parents.
Oh.
My father, who was a doctor in Meerut, Dr. Akhil Prasad, a big name. And for him also, it was life about overcoming his obstacles. So that is what I learned from him. My mother, she is a retired professor. But more than a professor, she has been the person standing right behind my father. And I can never forget, that day when my father passed away. This was in 1995. My mother did not cry. And the first words that came out of her mouth was, "You have an examination 2 days later." So somebody who can be so rock solid, a strength with you, can be the only inspiration in your life. So my parents, and now, of course, my kids, my wife, they inspire me a lot to achieve more and more. Perhaps that is the ecosystem within the family.
Right. So, any some of the values on principles that you have been guided throughout your career? Can you let us know any principles or any values? Of course, you just said that. I'm sure what your parents taught you have stood you in this time. When obviously up and downs happen, especially the down part, like you said, obstacles. Any key values based on which you are guided throughout your career?
See, for my family, especially my parents, I think everything started at home. My father used to treat patients for free, and he did it for his entire career of 40 years. So for me, I think the biggest lesson was live life not to only for yourself, but live your life for others. So that was, I think, the biggest mantra. And the biggest guiding principle has been that if you are embarking on a professional journey, don't only look at your professional journey, but develop the journey of people who you are working with. So, for example, when I started my career in those days, there were not so much mentoring and guidance. There was no formal process. But now, we know that we can only create a better place, a workplace, if we help others. And that thing has come to me from my parents because they have always devoted their life to work for others. So my father used to see patients every day without charging a fee. My mother used to help so many students. So that is something which I have embraced. That education is one, because education is your livelihood. It will lead to your livelihood. But the more you learn, the more you should distribute. And that learning has to be distributed among everybody. And that is the only way to success. Not only your success, but success of others. So you are successful not because how much money you make.
Yeah.
You are successful because of how many people you interact with.
Yeah. And also mentor, guide them
That's
in their
correct.
times when they really need that guidance.
Absolutely. So mentoring and guidance and support is something which I am really, really fond of. So I started a chapter of Merit of company secretaries in Merit,
Oh,
and this was way back in 1996 when I got married. Only the immediate next year we started this chapter, and thankfully, we would have generated about 2,000 company secretaries from Merit.
oh, that's
It
interesting.
was a big
That's
contribution, and thankfully, on my LinkedIn handle, on my social media, I always connect on a daily basis with many students,
okay.
try to help or try to learn
See,
with
this
them.
part of your life we would have never known if we were not doing this soulful conversation with you. So, what do you enjoy most being the general counsel, or any challenges? I think first we'll talk about what you enjoy most being the general counsel, because you have this career from the beginning, and then we'll talk about your challenges.
So, the best thing about my job, and for anybody who is in this role, is to be a problem solver. Because people will only come to you if they are in a problem. Because, as people jokingly say, that for a value of a doctor or a lawyer, it's the SOS. So when people are in need, they will come out to you
Yeah.
for help, and that is your moment. So it is your moment, that whether your client is happy or unhappy, and that is exactly the value of a true professional. So my biggest uh, point or biggest measure of success for me is whether people are really free to come to you, whether in your office you have a open door policy,
Correct. And
whether people need an appointment to meet you, or whether people can freely come and meet you. For me, people don't have to take an appointment. I don't have to take an appointment for meeting anybody in my office. So that is exactly the trust and confidence that people should have in you, and that is the biggest thing one can achieve.
And it's also very interesting to see in your career path that you have been with Boeing for so many years. We do find general counsels who are that long, but very few. So I'm sure you have won the trust of your, leadership team, or what you can call your stakeholders. So can you tell us more about this? That how come you have reached that position? That, of course, you've said about your education, about how you give to the people, but how about this aspect of yours?
See, it is purely client service, as I can say,
Yeah.
because when I was being hired by my current employer, which is Boeing, before that I was with Fidelity, and Fidelity, as we know, is one of the largest mutual fund operator and retirement benefit plan operator. So I was a mutual fund and a private equity lawyer. And when I was being hired by Boeing, the first question that, so the interview process went on. And when I got my appointment letter, I asked that question to my manager. I said, "Why did you hire me? Because I am not an aviation lawyer."
Yeah.
So the answer that came back to me was, "We hired you because you're a general counsel." So that is something, which was at that point of time, I really reflected back, and I really thought about the phrase that he said to me, that we hired you because you were a general counsel.
Oh.
So all of us as professionals, we should first become our domain experts, not industry experts. Because I was being hired for this company because not I was an aviation expert, because I was a general counsel. So my advice to young professionals who are watching this show is, develop your core expertise. And that expertise is what you have studied. The more you study, the more you diversify your mind, the better professional you will turn out to be. And that is your core. Industry is not your core. So that is how I see myself, that if I were to be a general counsel, I should be able to work in any industry. So what people sometimes commit a mistake is specialization,
Yeah.
which I would not
But
recommend.
though we also look at, we do also do hiring of general counsels, but now I see the trend is more to look at more industry experience also. But I really appreciate the core of the person, whether the person can win the trust of the stakeholders, of their, founders, owners. I think that particular trait, or that particular aspect of a human being, I think, is more important. Even I personally think obviously you have to be technically a good lawyer for that. So how do you describe your leadership, though you have told us that your doors are open for everybody? So how would you describe your leadership style, and how do you think it has evolved over time? Though more or less you've answered this, but I like to hear more about this.
So, the leadership also gets developed from how you were treated in your career. For example, what problems or obstacles I faced during the early phase of my career, even during the middle phase of my career, even till about, and you face such situations almost on a daily basis. So it's not about leadership that, leadership is not something which is uh, static. Leadership will always develop over a period of time.
Yeah.
So what you have to be is, as a person, and that also is your leadership, is to be sensitive about people around you.
Correct. Yeah, right.
You have to think, how does a person feel in an organization. And it is not about the managing directors, it is not about the general managers, it is not about people who are in your team. I think that ecosystem as a whole should be understood. So the moment you enter your office, whether you pass on a smile to the security guard who is standing at the door,
Yeah.
whether you are saying thank you to the person who's serving you tea or coffee,
Right.
is what leadership is.
Right.
And I think unless you are constantly aware of your surroundings, you will not be able to catch the pulse of the organization. That is how I see leadership. And the more sensitive you are, because during your career journey, you will go up, the organization change,
Change.
and you will have to become more receptive to people,
Yeah. Maybe more sensitive, more
more
and more
sensitive to people.
Yeah.
And that is how your leadership should develop. Because people will see you as a true leader if, when you are, for example, if you're talking in a room, are you maintaining the eye contact with people who are inside the room?
Right.
Are you appreciating their point of view? Is very, very important for your leadership. That is how I try to
Yeah.
do things around
Yeah,
me.
I think also as you grow up the career path, also it's not about that, like you said, your core has to be the same if you are made like that, to with that little bit of human touch. You that's how your leadership style is, and maybe as you grow in your career path, you grow. I think you will be engaging with more and more people. Maybe earlier when you start, you don't. But I think you are very right that uh, the way you are sensitive to people's reactions, behavior. I think that is what I've understood is your
And let me
leadership
also
style.
say that it doesn't mean that you have to be always polite.
Yeah,
You
correct.
have to be polite, that's a given. But in the interest of the organization, you have to take certain decisions which may not be popular, or which may
Or they
not
may
be.
not everybody agree
But
to it.
then that is also the other side of leadership. But when you are taking tough decisions, are you being sensitive enough to let the people know that it's a tough situation and we have to collectively deal with such situation? So people, confidence in people, trust in people, be able to say good things, bad things with the same candor, perhaps is what I think leadership is about.
Yeah, very nice. So, can you share with us a memorable moment which has impacted your life significantly? Any moment in your life?
So I was, Bithika, born with a silver spoon. So everything anybody could get or expect. My father was a very well-known doctor, and then we had a cinema business in Meerut. So we had almost everything, but as tough times don't last, good times also don't last. So for us, it was a downward journey. We had some big financial problems, and things were really, really bad. Uh, so when I did my BCom from Meerut College, and I could not get admission. So I before BCom I appeared for a lot of medical entrance exams. because my father was a doctor, but I failed in all of them. Then I, sat for a lot of MBA entrance exams. I failed in all of them. So I was very frustrated. And then, my father, perhaps he understood that I was very frustrated. The businesses were not very good. We were in a huge financial problem. So he asked me that, why don't you go to Bombay and start working after graduation? So I had no inclination of what I wanted to be in life, no motivation, failures all around me. So I said, yeah, it may be a better time for me to move from Meerut to Bombay. And the first job I got, I had to clean a room,
Oh.
coming from such an illustrious family, a big room of packed of files and all those. And that was the changing moment of my life, because when I was loading that material on my back and unloading them onto the truck, I realized that my family may have a legacy of 400 years, but you have to build your own legacy. Nothing gets passed on. So when I was loading material on that truck, the value of education came to me. And that was the first instance that
Turning
changed my life.
point of your
And the
life.
second instance was when I lost my father. And my mother said to me that, you have an exam 3
Exam,
days
so
later.
go.
3 days later. And in
You're not
Hindu,
gonna
in
miss
our,
it.
we can't do anything after the 13-day ceremony is over. But I went and sat for that exam and passed it. That was, I think these two must have been the two biggest changing moments of my life.
Yeah. And what do you think? This is an interesting one and different from what would you have been if you were not a lawyer or a general counsel today?
I think if you were to ask that question to anybody who knows me really well, I think people will say I would have been a musician. And by the way, I also have my YouTube channel.
Oh,
And what I realized is,
I heard you singing on my social media post. Now I remember you were singing. So it was, I said, Akhil is singing.
yeah, so I was very passionate about music ever since I was a kid, and I wanted to learn music, but it could not happen. But in 2017, I started to learn music, and my guru is Mohsin Ali Khan Sahab, and yeah, he's a youngster, but he's an accomplished vocalist, and I have started to learn classical music.
This was when? When did you start?
2017. 2017,
Oh, just few years
ago.
Okay,
And then, one day we were doing riyaz, and where do we do riyaz? In my office, in my parking, in my car.
Oh.
Tuesdays and Thursdays we have class.
वो आपका टाइम होगा ना उनसे
उनसे टाइम होता है around 3 p.m. So 3 to 4 we do riyaz every week. And during COVID also we did virtually. So yes, had not been a lawyer, obviously would have been a singer. But I tried to do
but you are still
learning.
Learning.
Yeah.
So that's interesting. So my next question was to ask what passion and hobbies you have other than, so I think this is your hobby. Is there anything else?
So music videos has been a recent hobby. Other than that, I'm a biographer. I'm writing a book on my father, which will be released this year. And also I'm making a film on him.
Oh.
And the reason...
Then you are doing all those things which I want to do. I always tell that maybe once I'm not advising law firms and, managing partners, and also I'm also going to make a film, because I've had such interesting, and not only interesting, very, amazing kind of experience, because I have worked now with the legal fraternity for so long. So those are the things I would like to capture, but I don't know whether I'll get the opportunity to do it.
When there's a will, there's a way.
Yeah. So again, I think you gave some advice to the legal professionals regarding education and upskilling and learning. Is there anything else you would like to tell the new generation that has, is now working in as lawyers, maybe in corporates or with law firms, any other advice? Because this generation is different, from the earlier generations, and all generations, I would say, is different. I won't say this generation, but they are smart, they are more intelligent, So, and also I think they like to experience many things. They don't only want to focus on just their jobs, I would say. So anything you would like to, advise them, or just give a perspective to them,
So I would definitely like to say, what I have also done in my life is on the professional side, at least, is not to be confined to legal. And that is exactly what my advice would be, that
It means what? Not confined to legal.
which
Then
means
please.
for a lawyer, it is very important to also know about business aspects.
Yeah.
It is
Very
also very important for lawyers to know about technology. So my advice would be that don't think you yourself to be only a lawyer, because that's what our law universities will teach you. They will
Yeah.
make you a very good lawyer. But career is something which is beyond being a lawyer.
Correct.
And when you are dealing with your clients, whether as the in-house or whether you are in practice, your clients' problems could be very, very diverse. So somebody will come to you with a financial problem. So you should be able to help that person to overcome that situation. And that is how I see a person should be as a professional. So what I'm using the terminology today is, and I also encourage my teams, where I work today is, don't only look at a problem within your domain area. Try to expand, and that you will be only to be able to expand if you are able to or open to more learning. So learn new things. What is happening around you? For in-house, it's a big opportunity because there are 2 or 3 lawyers, and most of the people that you are dealing in an organization will be non-lawyers. So have your mind which is open to learning apart from legal. So if you have a spectrum of a circle in your mind, learning knowledge circle, law is perhaps 90 degree, but we are
Looking at the
270 degree we are leaving
yeah.
out.
So you need a 360 degree.
You need
kind
to
of
have a
view.
360 degree holistic approach.
I also tell everybody who I meet, and obviously in my organization also, to go beyond. Just don't restrict yourself, like you said, within what you really need and just do that task. Just think beyond, go beyond, and then the kind of services you can provide is very, very different. And I think clients appreciate that more today. And anything on spirituality, do you really believe in spirituality or any thoughts on that?
I have always been a very spiritual person. I believe a lot in what our religious text will tell us. But I am also not a person who is somebody andhvishwasi nahi hu. So I'm not a person who is. I will always believe that there is one supreme power. I always believe that every religion has a lot of power. It is not only one religion which is dominant or which is not dominant or should not be accepted. I think all religions will teach you very, very different, diverse things. Those things are what one should learn and adopt. And meditation is something which I have practiced over the years. Because when I was in a very difficult phase of my life, I think like a normal like every one of us, there have been weak moments, and spirituality and meditation has helped me a lot. So which I will, and even if you are not in a problem, what I would say is still it will keep your balance, the mental balance. So one should embrace spirituality and also meditation.
Yeah. So with this, I think we will now hopefully meet you next.
Certainly.
And chat with you more on maybe other more aspects. And thank you so much, Akhil.
Thanks for
being
having me
with
here.
us.
It's always a pleasure, and you inspire a lot of people.
Really, I didn't know that.
Thank you so much for
Thank you.
having me here.
Thank you, Akhil.